Hello, this is Ajay Mittal, and in this tutorial, we are going to look a little bit about how wildcards in Java work. Okay, let's get started. So, here I'm opening some source code. In this file, we have a vector of integers, and that is being assigned to a list of integers. And this example illustrates why in generics, when we are using types, we cannot do an upcasting that we normally can with variables. So if I have a variable of type integer, I can upcast it to a variable of type object because object is a base class of an integer. But if I have a vector of integers, or the integer is a type, then I cannot just assign that vector to another list or vector of type object. Okay. So the upcasting doesn't work with types. Let's try to see what kind of compiler error we get with this. We'll do it. Okay. So we can see in an incompatible type error because list of integer cannot be converted to list of object. So we have to keep this in mind to begin with when dealing with types and how can they be upcasted. Now let's take a look at another example. In this example, again I have a vector of integer. This is being assigned to a list of integer, and list, as we know, is an interface that vector implements. So this is the same as the previous example that we saw. Here I have an old style list of general list. When I say old style, I mean that the container we do not specify a type in the container. And what this means is that the container is going to work with objects, because every class in Java, finally the base class is an object. All right. And here we have our first illustration of the wildcard. And we've got a list, and the type is a wildcard, and the name of the variable is wildcard list. And conceptually, what this means is that yes, this particular interface or class has a type associated with it, but that type is unknown. And not only is that type unknown, it's always going to be unknown. All right. So here, our list of integers, we can assign it to a list where the type is unknown. But once we made the assignment and we have the wildcard list as our variable, we've essentially lost the type associated with the list. So if I have a wildcard list, I cannot assign it back to list of integers, even though internally the wildcard list is a list of integers, right? But because the wildcard was used, it lost that type information. So I cannot assign it back to a list of integers. If I have the general list, I can assign it to a list of integers. There will be a warning generated because the general list is now working with objects, and so I will have to do a typecast in order to get rid of that warning, but it does allow me to do this. Now list of integers, obviously we can add an integer because it contains integers. The journal list also we can add an integer because a journal list contains objects and an integer is a type of an object. But when it comes to the wildcard list, because we do not have the exact type, we really can't add anything. We can't add an integer or an object. So a lot of restrictions by assigning just a wildcard as a type parameter to a class. We really can't add something to the vector, wouldn't let us work with it. Can we get something out of the wildcard list? So here we have the wildcard list and we are getting the first element out, and because every element in Java ultimately is an object, I can declare a base class object and get something out of the wildcard list. Alright, so this gives us an idea about little bit about how the wildcard list is getting used. मैं रिकॉर्डिंग कर